This episode of History Hunters brings us to Mountain View Cemetery in San Bernardino. Every cemetery contains the remains of people who had a tragic death, but today we'll focus on the untimely deaths of two young men, one a 25-year-old guitar musician and the other a 26-year-old race car driver. Welcome as we talk about Randy Rhoads and David Earl Savage, better known as Swede Savage.
So I'm doing a little site visit here. I'm going to talk to you about Randy Rhoads, who was a 25-year-old musician who was part of Ozzy Osbourne's band. So here's the mausoleum of Randy Rhoads. He was a guitar prodigy who started playing at the age of 6, and he was in the 1980s heavy metal band Quiet Riot and was the original guitarist for heavy metal singer Ozzy Osbourne's solo band. He was known for combining classical and heavy metal music together. His work on Osbourne's first two solo albums, Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman, are hailed today for their ingenuity, and songs like Crazy Train and Flying High Again are considered heavy metal classics. He gave the inspiration for Grover Jackson, who was the founder of Jackson Guitars, to start a guitar company. He was killed in a private air crash in Leesburg, Florida, and it was really an insane way to go. I couldn't help but notice that there's lip prints that women have left here along the edge of the mausoleum. Looks like his mother, Dolores Kell Rhoads, died in 2015. It says a life dedicated to music. More lip prints over here. Musical notes on the columns. That's pretty cool. I think that's very cool that he's got his own mausoleum here at the entrance to Mountain View Mortuary and Cemetery. Large medical building right across the street. I believe the hospital's right across the street.
Randy Rhoads was born December 6, 1956 in Santa Monica, the youngest of 3 children. He started playing folk guitar at the age of 6 with very few lessons. Playing through high school, Rhoads became a heavy metal guitarist with Quiet Riot. He was added to Ozzy Osbourne's group without much of an audition. It seems that Osbourne was plastered. A devoted student of classical guitar, Rhoads often combined his classical music influences with his own style of heavy metal. Several weeks into Ozzy Osbourne's Diary of a Madman tour, Rhoads said that he wanted to leave the band to pursue a degree in classical guitar in a university setting. Osbourne said, quote, "You're crazy, just play rock and roll and make some bucks." He said, "I want to do it." So he started going to seminars. 7 weeks later, the classical stuff he was playing was unbelievable. 7 weeks. He worked around the clock to get where he wanted. Rhoads' last show was on Thursday, March 18, 1982, at the Knoxville Civic Coliseum in Knoxville, Tennessee. The next day, the band was headed to a festival concert named Rock Super Bowl 14 in Orlando, Florida. Tragedy would strike, and the concert would never happen. After driving through the night in the band's Greyhound-type bus, they stopped at Flying Baron Estates, a rural property in Leesburg, Florida belonging to Jerry Calhoun, who used to record country and western music in Nashville, to pick up some parts for a broken AC unit. The property had 3 houses and an airstrip lined with small planes. One home belonged to the tour bus driver, Andrew Aycock, and another, a white Georgian-style mansion, was owned by Calhoun. Aycock was a licensed pilot but not medically certified, and taught keyboardist Don Arian to taking a flight with him in a 1955 Beechcraft Bonanza F-35 that he didn't have permission to fly. Also joining the pair was tour manager Jake Duncan. The short joyride included several low passes at treetop level over the bus in an attempt to wake drummer Tommy Aldridge. The plane then landed safely. Aycock then offered to take Rhoads and Rachel Youngblood, 58th, the group's makeup artist and hairdresser. Rhoads was afraid of flying and hesitated, but believed that Aycock would play it safe with Youngblood aboard because she had a heart condition. He was also into photography and wanted to take some aerial photographs for his mother. Aycock did not behave on the second flight and buzzed the tour bus where Ozzy Osbourne, manager and future wife Sharon Arden, guitarist Tommy Aldridge, and bassist Rudy Sarzo were asleep. On the 4th pass at 9 a.m., while the plane was flying about 10 feet off the ground at 140 to 180 miles an hour, the left wing clipped the rear of the bus, cutting a 6-foot-long gash through the roof. The plane somersaulted over the bus, breaking off a tall pine tree before crashing through the Calhoun's mansion, exploding on impact and setting the house on fire. All three aboard the plane were killed instantly. One victim was found outside the window of the garage, just below where the plane struck the wall. The other two victims were found inside the garage, one beside and one atop the two burned-out vehicles parked inside. The bodies were burned beyond recognition. Rhoads had to be identified by his jewelry and ACOG through dental records. An autopsy revealed that ACOG's system showed traces of cocaine at the time. Ozzy Osbourne has steadfastly refused to believe it was a prank, claiming, quote, "It was an accident and that's it. For God's sake, if I ever hear anybody say it was one of my practical jokes that went wrong, I'll strangle the bastard. It was an accident, a horrible accident." Osbourne canceled the group's appearance for Rock Super Bowl 14, and a spokesman for the promoters said that anyone with tickets may get a refund if they wished, though the show would go on as scheduled with Pat Travers as a replacement act. Rhoads' funeral was held at the First Lutheran Church in Burbank, California on March 24, 1982. He is interred here at Mountain View Cemetery in San Bernardino, where his grandparents are also buried. Osbourne called Rhoads a hero, a true legend. He was a saint, he was an angel, and too good for this world. His death's always on my mind. Despite his relatively short career, Rhoads is a major influence on neoclassical metal players that emerged in the 1980s. He is cited as an influence by many contemporary guitarists of all styles.
I'm really proud and honored, and I don't want to stop there,
Entombed above her son's crypt is the body of Dolores Violet Rhoads, who died in 2015 at the age of 95. A musician herself, Dee learned to play the cornet and went on to master 14 other musical instruments. As a music major, she attended San Bernardino Community College, where she met and married William Arthur Rhoads, Randy's father. After graduating from UCLA in 1948, she opened a music school in Hollywood, where she taught thousands of students, including her own 3 children. After receiving his first guitar at the age of 6.5, Randy began taking lessons from his mother. His 50-second classical guitar interlude called D on Ozzy Osbourne's Blizzard of Oz album was written as a tribute to her. When Randy was 17 months old, his father, William Arthur Rhoads, left Dolores and his 3 children.
We're still here in the Mountain View Cemetery in San Bernardino, and there's a tree back here. It looks like maybe a cypress tree. This tree's got some issues. It looks like it broke off. And you'll find right over here a most noteworthy grave. If you were a kid in the 1970s and you remember watching the Indianapolis 500, it was just plagued with a lot of horrific accidents. So I was not into sports when I was a kid. I did, however, find the video of the crash, and it is horrific. It's almost mind-boggling to see a car explode the way it did and then slide out of control, then burst into flames, and you can actually see Swede inside the car as it's burning. They come up, they start foaming him down, trying to save him.
Oh my God, it's Savage! Oh! What a crash! God almighty! Swede Savage. That is the worst thing I've ever seen.
Born in San Bernardino, David Earl Savage, better known as Swede Savage, began racing as a child. His first race was a soapbox derby at the age of 5, and he was into midget car racing at age 12. As a teenager, David was racing motorcycles competitively. From 1968 to 1972, he competed in NASCAR events, Daytona 500, Trans Am Series, Phoenix International, the Questor Grand Prix, and finished 32nd in the Indy 500 in 1972. The following year, the Indianapolis 500 was plagued with accidents and claimed the lives of 2 drivers and a pit crew member, and resulted in critical injuries to another driver. In that race, Savage held the lead from laps 43 to 54 and then made his first pit stop. He rejoined in second place, and on the 58th lap, the right half of his rear wing had come loose, causing his car to slide across to the inside of the track at nearly top speed, hitting an angled wall nearly head-on. With full tanks carrying 75 gallons of fuel, the car broke up and burst into flames, but the suit kept Savage from burning to death. Savage was taken to Methodist Hospital Medical Center with third-degree burns and smoke inhalation, but was in stable condition. His legs were shattered in multiple places. Savage joked with medical personnel after the wreck and was expected to live. However, he died in the hospital 33 days later on July 2, 1973. The cause of death remains in dispute. It has been widely believed that he died from breathing toxic fumes in the fire, which damaged his lungs, but Steve Olbe, Savage's attending physician, claimed that he contracted hepatitis B from a blood transfusion, causing his liver to fail. However, Savage's father said that his son wasn't given enough oxygen just prior to his death, and that there was no way he could have survived, even if he hadn't contracted hepatitis B.
So I want to thank you for joining us on this episode of History Hunters. We would ask that if you had any thoughts, please share them in the comments section. We would love it if you gave us a thumbs up, and if you could subscribe, hit the notification bell. That way when we come on, you will know when our shows have been aired. Thank you so much.